Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I am your host, Brett Gilland, and this week I got Dr. Craig Thayer with me. Craig, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, sir.
Good. Well, it's good to be with you today. You're calling your videoing in from Northwest Georgia. How's things cooking in Georgia right now?
Actually, it's a beautiful day today. So about 72, a little breeze, and
There you
no
go.
rain. Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's awesome. It's been windy as hell here. I don't know what's going on, but I look around. I'm looking at my kids' sporting events. I'm like standing there, can barely stand up. It's so windy. I say it's a 2-club wind, for golf. So it's a little breezy lately. I don't know why, but so anyway, well, Craig, you are a surgeon, a #1 best-selling author, a radio show co-host, a motivational speaker. Man, you could have probably just laid low and just kept staying in a surgery room, but you decided not to do that, huh? And take on all this other stuff. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, I just have discovered a newer passion, and that is just trying to get out to talk to people, and then obviously this book that was kind of almost 15 years in the works, and was my grandmother who said, "You've got to do this because of what you've been through in your life, and this is going to motivate people." And she passed away August 7th of 2021, so it's been almost 2 years. But yeah, so and she left a couple miracles behind when she did that. So like a clock that stopped 2 days later at the time of death, and
Oh,
because I was there for her last breath, and then in a guest bathroom that I was staying in for the last 2 weeks that I was there staying with her before when she died, there was a book on this wicker chair that had a bookmark in it, her glasses on it, and so it had been clearly read by her, and that she was going to come back and read it, but the title was gone missing.
oh, wow. Wow.
Coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you've had a lot of stuff in your life, and so you're a high-level leader now, like I said, motivational speaker and all that stuff. But I love here, it says your passion is to inspire and motivate others to live their life to the fullest. So I want to get into that in a minute. But before we do that, if you can, give us a little, shed a little light, if you will, on the things that you've been through in your life. Like you said, you do have a story, you've got your book, but if you can, just give us what's made you the man you are today.
All right, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. So it really kind of begins before I was born, because my natural mother was in Michigan and going to be married to my natural father, but not going through catechism fast enough. So she, about 3 months before due, went to Monterey, California, held me for 10 days, and then gave me up for adoption. So I was an orphan for 9 months, and just saved by her belief in Jesus and in God. So, and then part of the adoption was that I mandatorily be raised by a Catholic mom. And so who better than an Irish Catholic? My mom was 21, moved from Ireland to America, and met my dad, and they couldn't have kids. And then there I am in their house. So, and they were my parents, and I had a strong loyalty to them growing up. They always told me that I was adopted from the beginning. It wasn't a secret. And then I think the next thing was just making me more empathic. And that was one night, my dad, my sister, and I were coming home, and my dad opened the front door, and in the living room, you could see my mom on the ground, passed out. And that's the first time I realized she had an alcohol problem. So
Wow.
I was about 11 when I went to an AA meeting with her. So I got to hear what people had to say about their alcohol and their addictions, and kind of be a better empath. And then junior year in high school, I took anatomy, physiology, knew, man, the human body's amazing. I loved working with my hands. I got to be a surgeon. I was cocky and said, "Oh, I'm going to be a cardiac or a neurosurgeon," because they're the really super cool ones. And then I had a twisted intestine. So just like a week before finals, my junior year, and so got over that. Got back into the pool. I was a water polo player and a competitive swimmer, and then headed off to college. And freshman year, my mom passes away. Sophomore year, I'm in a bicycle accident, cracked my head. I have spinal fluid coming out of my ear. These are stories in the book. They're just how kind of God worked through my life to, my mom dies. I was on an all-male floor. All my floor mates said, "He's not coming back. He won't be back. There's no way." And they knew I wanted to be a surgeon. So same thing sophomore year, I'm in the hospital. UC Davis is a quarter system. So 2 weeks is 20% of your class. They're
Wow.
like, you'll never make it back. You can't catch up. And if I get off series, 128 organic chemistry, now I have to take that the next quarter. I'm not going to graduate in 4 years, and that's going to screw everything up. So um, then junior year, my dad gets diagnosed with lung cancer, stage 4. And that year I was in off-campus dorm, and if there's folks that don't remember about dial phones and long-distance phone call costs, um, it had one phone jack against this one wall. It was a suite for 5 students. I was one of the 2 in the back. It was one room up front. And I plugged that in and would call my dad, and I never got a bill. And I'm like, okay, you check with the front desk. Are you guys getting charged for that? And there was never a bill. It was, you can't explain how I had, 2-3 hour conversations with my dad every night and not have to pay for any of it. So, and then my dad passes away between junior and senior year.
My goodness.
Yeah. And then I apply to med school, and I get this, if you get, I think I applied to about 18, and I could wallpaper my room with the rejection notices. And I finally got one, and if you get a thin one, that's just like a Dear John letter. You're sorry,
Right.
looked at you, and you're you can't come. So I got a thin one, and it says, "Congratulations, you've not been accepted." And I'm like, "What? What kind of a letter is this?"
Congrats. Yeah.
And
What
then
the
it
hell?
says, "Well, you're on a wait list, so you still have a chance of getting in." So, and then during the summer, I get this phone call, and I think it's my friend who I'm going to pick up from one of his classes. So I answer Craig's taxi service, and it's a lady from UC Davis Med School, and she says, "Well, is Craig Thayer there?" And I said, "Oh yeah, just a second." I covered the phone, no change in voice, not enough time to really go get somebody. I'm back on the phone. I wonder what she thought, and said, "Yeah, well," and she says, "You're in." So I got into UC
Wow.
Davis Med School, and then yeah, and then from there I matched at UC Davis's general surgery program, and I was the last resident, which that's a 6-year program, to hang my own shingle as a business. I had to get 7 different insurances: malpractice, dental health, uh, renters, because I had an office, workman's comp. You just keep going, but it's a business, and you never really
Right.
get taught any of that when you're a resident. You just learn medicine and taking care of people. So you have to come up with a P&L plan for a business loan, and I'd had some business experience with my dad's death. So my mom died. She had like a $25,000 life insurance policy. My dad invested in the 4th mortgage on an 8-unit apartment complex, and after he died, that foreclosed. So we put the 8 of us. There were 8 that were in the 4th. Put in an offer for, I think, the first and just ours, and we got it. So we kept it for a year so that no one could come back. If we would have improved it, we would have lost whatever we put the money in improving it, and then sold it for a big profit. So I was 21, 22.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty
So I
crazy. So,
accelerated business program.
so you
So
then go off and do get your doctorate, your medical degree, and you become a surgeon. You do all those things, and I'm not fast forwarding through that, but I'm always curious about how when people have a nice, successful career, and I don't know this to be true, but I would assume that you've done pretty well. I would assume in your
yeah,
career, but now you're doing these other things, and again, I said your passion is to inspire and motivate others to live their life to the fullest. So why are you
right.
doing this? Why are you on a podcast? Why are you writing a book instead of just staying in the surgery room and collecting your check?
Yeah. I think a part of that was my wife wanting to get out of California just because of different things going on. We homeschooled our last 2. I have 5 kids. 32 today, actually, the oldest, and
Nice.
then just turned 16. So, um, and so I made this kind of blog on my Facebook post of uniting America. America's just so divided, and there is something to be said about. I was privileged to play on a United States water polo team against Czechoslovakia, Germany, Russia, a bunch of different countries, and you just
Wow.
realize that, hey, man, we're all teammates. We all bleed the same. We're in this battle against whatever country it is, but it's uniting. It's patriotically uniting. And so a friend of mine who I literally hadn't spoken to in 40 years called me, and we had a 2.5 hour chat about our childhood. He went off to a Jesuit high school. I stayed at public. He changed swim teams. I stayed at Deanza, went to Santa Clara where Mark Spitz and those guys were. And he offered me a job at the end. He goes, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Old school general surgeon. I got trained like a general contractor. I do head to toe. So if you had a big hematoma in your skull, I could drain it. If you've got a hole in your heart, I can open your chest, put a finger in it, and sew it closed. Or I could take out your breast, colon, lung cancer. Or I can do vascular stuff like carotids." And so he goes, "I think I need you." So I said, "Well, we're going out to look at Tennessee," and he had a job offer like over 2 weeks after I left. So the move was kind of the first step, and then the Grant Cardone 10X convention I went to, and people telling me I needed that I didn't even know, telling me I needed to be on the stage. I'm on a Boy Scout trip with my 2 youngest sons in Virginia at this gigantic camp that can house 50,000 people. And this lady, we're shooting bows and stuff. And this lady, I made some comments. She says, "We need to put that in your book." And I'm like, "How do you know I'm writing a book?" She's just like, "You just seem like you'd be writing a book." So, and then with just my grandmother going, "You need to do this." So all these signs to me were saying, you need to do this as well. Because I've already been on medical mission trips. I've been doing that to Haiti once in 2010, almost a year after the earthquake. And then every year from that to Honduras. And it's an outpatient surgery center. And just do a crazy number of cases in like 4.5 days.
Right.
And so I knew I needed to serve in a different way. And I was learning from these people that I really need to do it in a public way. And the book was a start to that, just showing kind of the miracles in my life that got me to this position today. And that people need to be inspired. I mean, COVID had a risk benefit, right? So sheltering in was not good for us.
Right.
It raised women between the ages of 23 to 45's suicide rate 6-fold. So, and we're built to gather. So all that said, and it's difficult. I mean, kids that have been semi-homeschooled because the schools weren't, open, are like a year and a half behind in math, over a year and something in English, and they don't communicate the same either. They're almost a year to 2 years regressed. So just getting out and gathering with people, inspiring, telling them my stories, motivating them, giving them hope that, look, I suppose part of that in the book is that there's some light, there's pictures of the light that you can, if you really look at this and go, man, okay, there is a higher being, a higher power. It doesn't have to be Christian, but there's a higher power. And that being said, that within Christianity anyway, that you have an eternal life after that, right? With believing. So that gives hope to a lot of people. So that's my present goals.
So it's basically out there. What I'm hearing is that we have enough, I would call it just garbage, right? That comes off these cell phones every day, and the notifications, the media, the TV news everywhere. It's just, it is dividing, and it's terrible, man. And I think people like yourself have to step up, and you've been blessed with a great career because you've worked your ass off. But at the same time, it's like, hey, let's give back to that now. Would you agree with that comment?
Totally agree. Agree.
Yeah. So when you see that right now, what are some things that you would recommend for somebody listening to this? We have a lot of successful people, right? Business owners, stay-at-home parents, athletes, whatever it may be, that listen to this podcast. What advice would you have to them? They're usually probably already doing a good job anyway, but they want to take it to that next level. So what are the things that you would focus on if you were them? You don't know what they're doing, but if you were them, what would you be focusing on every single day to help our country, but also more importantly, to help themselves, which ultimately helps the country?
Yeah, I think what we just talked about. So I think if you can get up And the first thing you can do if you have faith in a God is just reflect on that before your brain's taken over by your phone going off or a
Yeah.
text message that you're getting or something. And then for those that can exercise early in the morning, I think that's great. But what I'm talking about is a routine. So some habits that are healthy for you and your brain. And then, and then trying to ignore as much as you can the social media. I mean, TikTok's entertaining, but it's entertaining. It's entertainment. It's not necessarily going to teach you anything or make you grow in any way. So,
Right.
and a lot of the news outlets, either side, doesn't matter. They're very negative, and some are just trying to scare people. So the more
Right.
fearful we get, so don't watch those things. And but pay attention. I mean, you still need to know if you're in the finance world right now. We've got 2 California banks that just went down.
Right.
So you can't bury your head in the sand either. So I mean, that's where relying on strong, educated, and continuing to be educated advisors for you is important.
Yeah. Yeah. I obviously I 100% agree with that. And I think it is who you surround yourself with too. I find that the like-minded people, man, we're sending text messages and different things that will inspire. There can be the jokes and the different things that go on, but I think it's the messages that really inspire us. Like one of them today I sent out, I saw it on somebody's Instagram and this morning, and it was talking about how life, it seems like as we get older, life goes by quicker, right? But it also said that 8-year-old or 9-year-old, which I have one of, right? A 9-year-old is something like their third grade year is like 90% of their life. So you think about, well, no wonder that seems like a big deal, because I look back and I think, man, high school seemed like it took forever when I was there. But now my oldest is a junior in high school, right? Getting ready to be done and got a
Right.
year left. I'm like, damn, that flew by. So
Right.
how do we slow down and enjoy the journey, us parents listening to this, and be in the moment? Because I think you said your oldest was going to be 32?
32 today, yeah.
Yeah, so 32 today. So you as a father, how do you slow down, enjoy the moment, enjoy the chaos, and be present?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't do it my way. So my way was unfortunately experiencing a friend who was a patient of mine 20 years prior to that, and then dying. And
Hmm.
he had a 2-year-old and then 4 other kids. He was a football coach. He was well respected in his community. But he'd crashed. I'd taken out a spleen. When you do that, it makes you subject to being at risk for overwhelming infections and death. And he had a strep throat, and that's one of the bugs that'll do it. Didn't go in, didn't
Mm-hmm.
need antibiotics, and then was late, and then in the hospital, fluids in the ICU on a ventilator, and then his heart won't clot. He has a big stroke, and he's brain dead. So, so I looked at my life and I said, do I really need to be on this committee or that committee? And so I just started to breed things that I didn't need to be on. And then really, I would say the biggest committee I was on was um, this one. We were forming a multi-specialty group, and that involved internists and surgeons of all categories. And we were working on the bylaws. And so we would meet every Tuesday for 5 to 6 hours, every Tuesday.
Well,
And then we were this close to finishing. And then I realized, well, my other hat that I wear, and that was a position that I was president elected by my peers because of the business experiences that I've had in the past. And then just before we're ready to do it, I realized that as trauma medical director, I can't give certain authorities to the board, like when we take vacation or who's covering call or any of those things. And so I gave them a list of 8 things, and then I gave it to that attorney for the group and the attorney that we had for our other group that we're still in, and they're all like, yeah, you can't give those up, or you will no longer be verified by the American College of Surgeons Committee on Trauma. And not being verified then takes away your ability to treat trauma at your medical center. So, um, but why didn't I get that sooner, right? So I think every once in a while, slowing down and just taking a look at what you're doing and seeing what's productive and what's not productive, and debreeding those things that aren't worth continuing to do.
Yeah. What's your morning? I assume most successful people on here have a good morning routine, whether that's reading and prayer, meditation, exercise. And you mentioned some of those things. But what would you say is the kind of the no miss? To your core, you believe these are the things that I have to do every day.
Yeah.
Habits.
I mean, I think the first for me is just getting into the Bible usually. So, and the way I do that is an interesting kind of way. So, um, there's a first, second, third, and fourth watch at night, uh, and they're 3 hour intervals, 3 to 4 hour intervals. And so, if I wake up after three, I'll look at the watch and I'll remember that time, and then I'll go the next morning and I'll Google that time as a chapter and verse, and it'll show
So
me
let me
what.
interrupt you real quick. So if you woke up at 4:19 that day
Right.
a.m.,
So
you would go to
I just go Bible 4:19, or I could go
okay.
41:9
Yep.
because there are chapters
Yep.
or some books that are 41 chapters long. So, and then I see what it said, and I'll tell you, 99.9, probably 100% of the time, it's been exactly something meaningful for me that day or that week. And if it hasn't immediately hit me in the head, the next week when I look back, I go, oh, okay, that's what that meant. So, or I'll just read some devotional or something else. But that then I've spent my time, with my higher power, and then I'll focus on other things like going through emails just to make sure I haven't missed something, because I'm not very good at doing that. I've grown up in a time when I had a dial phone and you couldn't get a hold of me
Right.
unless you could find me. So now it's like you can be tracked on your phone. So, and then I exercise probably 6 days a week. I'm trying to, I grew up playing water polo. I swam from 6.5 on, um, which kind of got me in trouble in seventh grade because my parents smoked. I never did. And I was in French class, and the French teacher walked up and said, and my eyes are all bloodshot because they didn't have goggles at that point. So I would swim before school and after school. And I just was highly irritated at the French teacher and said, you don't accuse me of smoking. And then she sent me to the principal's office. And so about an hour and a half, 2 hours sitting in his waiting room, he pulls me in. He says, okay, what are you here for? I said, well, I was accused of smoking. That's an insult. He goes, well, why is that? I said, because my body's my temple, and I swim about 6 miles in the morning and 7 miles in the evening. He goes, what? I said, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
a better swimmer. I swim about 6 miles in the morning before school and about 7 in the evening. He goes, get out of here.
That's great.
Fine. I mean, we understood that it was the smell of the smoke from my parents'
Yeah.
smoking and
Yeah.
clothing, and my eyes are bloodshot from chlorine. So, misunderstanding. And I was probably rude, to be honest.
Right. Right. So the Bible, emails, exercise, anything else?
Exercise. I try to eat 6 times a day. So, breakfast and then a snack, lunch, then a snack, dinner, then a snack. It's been shown pretty well that spreading your, especially glucose intake out over the day, keeps your glucose at a more steady rate. You don't get as hungry. Um, so that way it keeps my weight under control. Um, my wife's into cold therapy. I'm not. I'll go out when she does a post because we're both health coaches as well. And so, she'll, why are you going to get in? I go, no, I'm not that stupid.
It's funny you
But
say
it,
that, man. I
it,
just sent my
there's some,
exercise. I sent my exercise text message, and I said we're doing cold plunge tomorrow. And so far, I've only heard back from one of the 13 guys that they're in. So we'll see. It's always brutal. I don't love it. I don't
yeah, but
love it.
they say it works. It
Yeah.
fires up the cold shock proteins. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
so interesting
Well,
stuff.
so when you look back on your career now, I mean, what are some of the risks that you are happy that you took? That looking back, man, that was a pretty big risk, but you're happy you did it.
I was the last resident to come out of UC Davis that just hung up a shingle and opened his own private practice, and that's evolved. I mean, I left there to come to Georgia, um, in Georgia, you're hired by the hospital. In California, it has to be at an arm's length. And so you're hired into a group. And that has gradually gone from when I think I first got out of probably 70% being in private practice or a small group together to almost 100% being in groups that are part of a clinic at the hospital.
So what did you find out there as a business owner? I mean, right? Because a lot of people, you go to school to be a doctor, not to be a business owner, but they're two different things. But you got to be a business owner to be a doctor in that example.
Right. So, I mean, I think it's kind of like, I mean, you've learned too. I mean, your best investment is in yourself.
Yeah.
And so that said, when you can branch away from a larger group and start your own thing, like you've done, then you have more control. Obviously, you have more stress because you're now an entrepreneur versus, just being an employee with a guarantee. So that carries a lot more stress. But I had mentors that weren't partners, but were colleagues that were like, hey, when it's slow, this is, take advantage of that. So
yeah, I think it's key. And
I would have taken that I missed, but the one of those was I think I was chief of staff at the time, so politically it would have been a horrible move. So there was an orthopod on a committee about setting up an outpatient surgery center. The hospital was going to do it. He kept saying no, not a good idea. And then, sure enough, he and his group set up an outpatient surgery center, and they invited me to be in it. And I'm like, you just really pissed off a lot of people, and they're not like what you're doing. I don't think I can join that with that environment. So, but they made a lot of money doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think betting on yourself is, and you said best investment is yourself. And I agree. I mean, I think too, is you got to sometimes do it before you can quote unquote afford it. Right. I mean, I remember my first year in business, I was a 22, 23-year-old kid. I had a great first year. My second year was terrible. And I remember coming home at the end of that second year, and I told my wife I was going to hire an assistant. Like I needed this person, this employee. I'd have been at that time probably 24 years old, hiring my first person, and probably 50% of what I made the year before was going to go to this other person, right? But I believed in that process. I believed in myself. I believed that doing that would allow me to go out and make more money and do the things that I'm uniquely qualified to do. And so from 24 now at 45 years old, I've never not had employees. But that was a huge risk at the time that I took with my money, right, and my time, and went and did it. And so what advice, when you hear me talk about that, what comes to mind for you, and how would you share some learnings, if you will, with our listeners on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to take that leap of faith, right? Because you've done the work, you have the know-how. Now it's a matter of logistically doing it, right? So for surgery, it was getting an office that I could see people and do elective things. And then automatically you take calls. So you take care of all the I would say the Band-Aids that we have to put on people, the car accidents, the altered things that they do, the unhealthiness of overeating and diabetes with wounds that won't heal, or carotid disease, or lung cancers from smoking, or, and they come into the ER and they need emergent care. So that's always there. I'll always have a job that's just not going to ever go away. The stuff like that are complications of diseases, I hope will, as we learn more about health and what I've learned through health coaching is, the more weight you lose, the less inflamed you are. All the inflammatory things go away. Like I've seen lupus and some other diseases that are autoimmune that are gone from dropping the weight and getting the fat off your body so you're not as inflamed. And then just carrying the weight is bad for your joints. So most of the abilities are all joint things. So and then now, it's, I mean, I gotta write the book. So I have an editor. And then I need to publish the book. That's a cost. And then you got to market it somehow if you're going to market it. So there's ways to do that on the internet. And then I really want to, do more speaking. I've spoken before. I had a terrifying experience in front of 5,000 surgeons. So That
You
was a
got
lot of
that one
fun.
out of
That's
the way,
also
huh?
in the book. But yeah. So yeah, I think it's going to take some money to make money.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. I mean, I think too, again, another bet on yourself moment was, my managing partner at the time in this previous firm was saying, hey, you got 48 hours to make a decision. And so sometimes you got to have that tough love too that says, hey, make the decision, but make the damn decision. So are you going to do it and bet on yourself, or are you not? And I think there's that analysis by paralysis, or paralysis by analysis, I should say, right? That we want everything to be perfect before we just go do it. And sometimes you gotta build the parachute as you're coming down, right? Or you got to build the bridge as you're walking across. And so, which is tough to do, but you got to do that. So talk to us about some of those moments in your life where you were maybe building that parachute on the way down.
Well, I'll tell you. So I trained at UC Davis, and the medical center was in Sacramento, California. So a small town outside of there was Hangtown, Placerville. And so a lot of the professors gave me grief about, oh, you're thinking about going up to Hangtown. And I'd gone up and I met with the CEO, and they were really pro and were going to help find me an office and have like a consultant do part of the business loan stuff. And the four other guys that were there were initially, yeah, no problem, plenty of room. But as it got closer, they got really panicked, and literally they wrote me a letter saying, "You're really not welcome."
Hmm.
Oh, so that I'm like, oh, I'm just
Not
scared.
welcome to the party here.
Yeah, I think one had been there the longest for 30 something years. The other three, I think, came around the same time. So I was like, wow, I'm going to step on toes. But they got to know me. I built the parachute on the way down, which is just be kind, be nice, love people, understand where they're coming from, their fears, and that, I'm not going to. This town is growing, and it's growing at this rate. There should be enough for everybody. So don't worry
Yeah.
about it. If there is a problem. So
What you said there is there's enough for everybody. It makes me think about, and I tell this to my kids as well, but is be abundant. I mean, some of my closest friends, I'm picturing two people that I one play golf with, two I hang out with all the time, and our wives, our kids. We're in the exact same business in the exact same town, right? Literally. And so a lot of people be like, oh, that's a competitor, right? Well, man, there is a lot of stuff to go around, right? Whether you're selling widgets or wealth management, there's a lot out there. And I think that abundance mentality is sometimes missing by people. And I think what I have found is the most successful people have a huge amount of abundance when it comes to their business and their personal life. Right. So when you hear that, what comes to mind for you? Because I see your head nodding, you're agreeing.
yeah, no. I mean, there's also the anti ones, the pastor or poverty mentality, right? Those
Right.
people are like with the frozen feet that just want a 9 to 5 job, and they're too afraid to do anything. And I can't invest in. I'm not worthy of doing this, right? And then, but the people who do invest in themselves, the abundance. My wife started a health coach. So I'm like, babe, why are you doing? We're making a lot of money as it
Right.
is. Well, because we give. We go on the mission trips, which costs us a lot of money. I have to bring all my instruments and all my supplies, all the suture, all those things cost a lot of money. But we can give more. And then one of the things we'd love to do is build surgery centers around the world. I'm going to go to Uganda in the September and beginning of October, and they're not going to let me bring any instruments in. They won't let me bring any medications in. So I'm going to have to just kind of go as an ambassador and try and pave the way. They've got a surgery center where they do OB things, so you could do general surgery things. So we'll see. But,
Yeah.
it's building a parachute on the way down.
Yeah, exactly. It's another one of those moments. And I think, too, whether it may not be Uganda, but there's also things in life that we have to go do that they may not want us to bring. Again, use medicine, use your doctor, your tools, all the things that you need in that deal in Uganda. But just to life here in America, there's going to be people telling you can't do it, right? They don't believe in you.
Right.
And you have to go out and believe in yourself. So, like, do you have those moments where maybe they didn't believe in you, but your belief had to be greater than everybody else's negative thoughts?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I've been, you know, surgery is one of those things that, and it's a needed thing. So we have peer review. So the trauma medical director is in charge of all the trauma, right? So I do peer review, but I do it in a graceful way, especially if I've got newbies that are learning. But
Yeah.
these are life or death. So if someone really did something wrong, and we're going to argue about it, sometimes we get our swords out and we're going to fight. So, and there's been some meetings that have almost ended in blows, but we walk away friends and agree to disagree, and then have other people give an outside opinion in that usually those situations. But yeah, I think those are the ones that and if you've had a complication and you think you've done everything you could do to do it, and there's some piece of information that they didn't have, and then they're accusing you of these things, and you're like, no, but I was there and I did these things. And so, but there's that moment of like, and you need that as a surgeon. If someone has a complication, the first person you need to look at is yourself, and what could I have done that be the problem? If I've sewn something together that's a pipe and it's leaking, what did I do wrong? What didn't I see? If you don't examine yourself that way, then you don't improve, you don't grow, and it's risky for you to continue to practice.
Yeah.
So, and then, just this, what I'm doing now, I'll wake up going, man, is this really, do I need to do this? I think so, just because humanity needs, hope and to belong, and for me to serve and not be served. So, but yeah, I'm like, I look at myself like, who am I to think I'm this guy I'm already gifted with this pedestal that I'm put on because I'm a doc, right? So I think Ed Milet said in some survey that the most trusted people who speak are docs, because they're just trusted by being a doc. And I'm like,
right.
But I'm going to use it.
Yeah, those two little letters in front of your name, the DR, certainly carry some weight, don't they? It's amazing. Yeah. It's because you've put into the time, right, and the energy and the money, and you've done it, and you've worked your butt off for it. So when you see this sticker here, this F greater than P sign, that is achieving a future greater than your past. So that is our firm's mission. That is my personal mission. It is something that I get up for every single day. And I think the longer you're in business and you've had some sort of success, there becomes an outward maybe inward when we're in our 20s and we're thinking about how do you build your family and all those things. But I think once you get there, there's still a long way to go. But my point is to this: when you hear achieving a future greater than your past, what comes to mind for you?
The broad category of personal growth.
Yeah.
I think, when we're fixed in a job that's the same routine every day, we're not really growing either mind, body, spirit, or anything, and I'll tell you, it's funny because the health coaching thing that my wife and I got into, which directs us to Grant Cardone's 10X thing, all personal growth, to listen to Magic Johnson talk about, turning Starbucks in San Francisco into Starbucks that will work because they're playing the wrong music and they've got the wrong food for their culture in that area. Or John Travolta talking about wanting to get his 707 refurbished, and goes to Qantas because he loves the logo and says, hey, I'd love to buy one of your planes. And the CEO leans over and says, John, I don't think you got this right. We want to do something for you. So come back in a month and we'll figure it out. So hearing these people's stories, whether it's business growth or spiritual growth, getting more into the Bible, doing Bible studies, leading, having groups come to your house to speak, or even in a bigger platform, or physically, coaching them through their health, both better movement, hydration, sleep, all the factors that we know are important for longevity.
Yeah.
So
talk about that sleep. I mean, how critically important is it? Because obviously I know that I've talked about it a ton on this podcast, but even last night, you get sucked into my oldest got me to watching Breaking Bad, and you get sucked into one more episode, right? And then next thing you know, your eyes are bleeding and you should be sleeping. But how do we train ourselves into thinking about that and thinking about it in the moment? And maybe I shouldn't expect perfection and know it's just not going to happen. But how critically important is this sleep to us, and what are we missing when we're not getting the right number?
So yeah, the REM sleep and deep sleep are the important ones, right? So I have a Fitbit that I wear. It gives me what my REM and my deep are each night, and they're affected by different things. Alcohol, not one or two drinks have a significant, but if you're drinking more than that, that's going to have an effect. Your heart rate variability, which is a new parameter, goes down. So the more stressed and sympathetic nervous system's firing, the less variability you have in your heart. It's just kind of fixed at a higher heart rate, and that's not good for you. But yeah, sleep. But I also do believe, just because of practicing medicine, people who work an evening job like ER docs have a shorter lifespan, and then
Yeah.
add more variability to that, like what I've been doing to myself. I mean, I'm in death's door. So, but I do believe that it is there's like a sleep bank. So if you need 8 hours and you get 7, then you can make it up the next night or somewhere within the next week, and that will restore you back to the health that you should have. So yeah, and it's your brain. Your brain's going through alpha and different waves that are. The other longevity thing is, which is why intermittent fasting is supposed to be a longevity thing, not so much for weight loss, but it gives you're not eating and your body kind of consuming and metabolizing food and then producing waste. If you give it a break long enough, then your brain cells and all the other cells kind of clean up all the excess junk inside the cell for a longer period of time. And that's supposed to be healthier for you. So some evidence that that's true. So
Awesome.
interesting. Me too.
I'm gonna play a game here. I went up to I'm on your Instagram, so I'm gonna have you pick a number between 1 and 10 on this game, and then we're gonna pick another number after that. So between 1 and 10.
Number 7.
All right, 3. Number 7. Now a number between 1 and 3. 1, 2, 3.
3.
All right, number 3. It looks like it's a video here from you, and it says, "Let's get healthy together." And so I can't obviously show the whole video right here, but you've got your video. It's you on your Instagram here. Let's get healthy together. So what are we talking about there? What are we saying? Let's get healthy together. What's that about?
So it's two things. One is I think we all need coaches for different parts of our life, and health is probably one of those. It definitely works. I mean, like I said, I've seen people drop hundreds of pounds and they're no longer diabetic. I don't know if you ever watched the show Biggest Loser, but that's kind of the first time medicine. Hey, look, we can lose this kind of weight, and it's not through gastric bypass or any of those things. But the reality is that that's a symptom of a symptom. So you're eating too much, so you're obese. But why are you eating too much? That's the problem that a coach gets to in the psyche of a player, right? So how do you motivate? How do you inspire? And I think you said this in your podcast, passion, right? So the inspiration and motivation disappear within about a week, they say, behaviorally, but passion is the one that keeps you going. My passion was to be a surgeon, right? So I think, one, it's having a coach, and two, more importantly, if you're married or you have a partner, my wife would put me through so many different diets, Whole30, macro counting, and finally she agreed to do this other program, which is what we use to help people get healthy. I dropped 40 pounds. I gained 40 pounds when I went to 1 and 3 call. Your life pretty much ends. You're on, and then you're up all night, and you're operating the next day, and then you're off that day, but then you're on the next day. It's like you cancel vacations, and I gained 40 pounds, and it stayed that way until I said, like the chapter on Jason and time, that I realized I don't need to be on these committees. I need to take better care of myself. And then when I did it with my wife, Steph, you're eating the same things. She reminds you of this. I remind her of this, and we do it together. So if you can partner up with someone, that's always better.
Yeah, the accountability is huge. That's what I was saying earlier. These 13 guys on a text message that, tomorrow morning when my alarm goes off at, 5:38 or whatever it'll be, maybe a little chilly. I'm going to be like, it'd be a lot better to stay in bed, if I was doing it by myself. But knowing there's going to be people literally in my own backyard working out without me that'll be kind of, awkward, kind of weird if I don't show up.
Right.
But you got to create that, right? I had to create that atmosphere, that community, to make myself uncomfortable because I knew I wouldn't do it without them.
Right. Me either. I mean, I always, if it's an individual thing, like swimming is very individual. There's not really a team. Water polo is totally team. If I'm not there, I can't. The team can't work up on certain drills.
Yeah.
There's a PowerPoint in water polo where someone's ejected for 20 seconds. So it's kind of like hockey where you're a man up and you got to work on these techniques to get the goal. And if I'm not there, they don't do that. So I hurt the team. So that's key. But otherwise, individually, it's just setting goals. Like, okay, we used to cycle a lot. So let's do this cycling in Fresno on the 30th of July. And then you set these dates and you got to get there. Or I do this, we call it the Death March. It's a backpack trip with a bunch of guys and we're on trail the first day and then off going across the Sierras. So it's a blast, but it's guys need a fight. According to a good book, it's, it's by Eldridge, blocking on the name. But anyway, we need a fight, we need adventure, and we need beauty in our lives. So it keeps us going as men.
That's right. What do you think about rucking? I heard you talking about the backpacking. Are you a fan of rucking? And for those that don't know what that is, it's basically a backpack with weights on it, and you're walking, and maybe it's 10 pounds or 30 pounds, whatever you're carrying. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, my oldest son just did that. He's up in Seattle working at Boeing, so he and his girlfriend teamed up together and they rucked. They had to cross some streams with I think his was a 30-pound ruck, and it's good fitness. Yeah. Okay,
so you're a big fan of that, or not? Maybe not a big fan, but you're a believer in it. It's good for you.
Backpack's more comfortable than a ruck by far. So you got the strap, and it's internally supported. So you got a belt so it rests on your hips, but when you start to climb, like really ladder up stuff and kind of mountaineer, you got to strap it down because it'll swing you around and stuff, and then it's all on your shoulders. So, but I think they're both good.
Good.
And you really have to get in shape to go on the trip. So that's what motivates me. It's like, if I don't, I'm going to suffer.
Right. Yeah. First world problems here. I'm thinking about an August golf trip where I got to walk 36 holes every single day for 5 straight days. I'm like, God, I'm going to have to get way more in shape for this.
Well, it's not just that. It's like, for me, I got to get my feet worn in boots.
That's right.
You would be your feet
my golf shoes. Yeah.
Golf gear. Yeah. So, I mean, and it makes it different. If you start to get a hot spot, don't take care of it, or, you get a blister and then you're hurting the whole time. It's not really as fun. So, getting on a treadmill without the spikes.
That's right. Well, where do our listeners find more of you? Craig Thayer here. Looks like you got a website, craigthayer.net. Maybe some social media. Is that right?
Yeah. So, and on that site, you can click on my book. It'll take you to Amazon. You just put my name in and saved in Amazon search. You should find that.
Awesome.
I also have an email. It's Craig@4thayers.com. So Craig@4thayers.com. I'm on, apparently now LinkedIn is a big one. So I'm at /Craig-Thayer. And I've been on Facebook. There was Tank Thayer to go incognito, but now that my wife wanted me more high profile, it was Craig Tank Thayer, and all the people, that was a nickname from water polo, got really irritated about that. So now it's Craig Tank Thayer on Facebook. And then @Tank Thayer for Instagram. And then I just joined Twitter, so I'm a new tweeter and it's @Craig Tank Thayer. So those are all my contacts.
We'll put all those in the show notes here below. People can reach out to Craig, who is a surgeon and a best-selling author, radio show co-host, and a motivational speaker. Amazing stuff. Thanks for sharing your wisdom today, Craig. Really appreciate your time.
Hey, thank you, Brett. Thank you. It was an honor being on your show.